At number 5, it's Louisville ahead of Washington as the Huskies drop to number 6 after their loss to USC. Wisconsin steady at 7. Penn State up 2 spots to number 8, while Nebraska moves up 1 into the 18th position. For more on what it all means, we are joined by Fox Sports college football insider Stewart Mandel. Stewart, let's start with Ohio State. Clearly, Alabama is right now in a league all by itself, but the committee talks about clusters. So when you consider that cluster of one-loss teams, is Ohio State above that cluster or simply the best one-loss team within it?
Well, Rick, I thought it was interesting that Kirby Hocutt, the chairman, specifically said they spent a lot of time on teams 2 through 6. So that tells me that the Alabama part was a no-brainer, obviously, putting them at number 1, and that there probably isn't that much separation in their minds between Ohio State and the teams that are right behind them. I guess the main significance of him saying 2 through 6 instead of 2 through 7 is that means they don't consider Wisconsin to necessarily be as close to the other one-loss teams as, I kind of thought they might be.
We'll get more on Wisconsin in a bit, but Michigan also stays inside the top 4. As a matter of fact, the Wolverines don't go anywhere despite the loss to Iowa, and the committee has said we will treat the Wilton Spate injury after this coming week's games. We understand that, but how much of this is the strength of the Big Ten, the strength of the schedule that teams like Ohio State and Michigan have played in comparison to the schedule that teams like Clemson and Louisville have played?
Well, for Michigan specifically, who would have thought this coming into the season, that game against Colorado would help them out so much? Colorado has been the worst team in the Pac-12 for several years, but now here they are. They're a top 10 team. And Kirby Hocutt specifically mentioned as to why Michigan didn't drop this week because of those 3 wins over teams in the committee's top 10. Certainly no other team can make that claim, and in particular if you're comparing them to Clemson and Louisville. Clemson does have a similar resume to Michigan, but Louisville, the Florida State win early in the season, remains its only top 25 win of the entire season, and that's going to make it hard for them to actually get into the top 4.
Stewart, you brought up Clemson and Louisville. I think one of the hardest things for people on the outside to understand is how much head-to-head matters, and is it the trump card? When we see Clemson ahead of Louisville with similar strength of schedules, with similar resumes, are we to take from that this committee believes head-to-head will trump everything else when 2 comparable teams have played each other?
Well, the key word you used there was comparable, and I think if 2 teams have the same record and a very similar resume, then yes, head-to-head will be the tiebreaker. We saw that in the first year of the playoff in 2014. If you remember, TCU remained ahead of Baylor all the way up until the last week, and then on the final week they finally used head-to-head to put Baylor ahead of TCU. In this situation, though, remember, it's not just that head-to-head that's keeping Clemson ahead. It's also just a better resume. Clemson has 3 top 25 wins. Louisville only has 1. So I don't think Louisville can get into the top 4, frankly, if Clemson doesn't lose. That Clemson's keeping them out both because of the head-to-head and because it's boxing Louisville out of the ACC championship game.
All right, good stuff from Stewart Mandel. Stewart, hang around. We're going to rejoin you a little bit later in the show as we continue our college football playoff discussion.